Hello, I'm Teresa Malloy, the city's budget manager, and this presentation will cover our 2012 Financial Assessment Report, or FAR as we commonly refer to it. Each year, as part of the annual budget process, staff completes the Financial Assessment Report. This report contains economic data, city financial data for the most recently completed year, and 5-year projections, including the proposed budget. The full report, which contains much more information than will be presented today, was included in your council packet and can be found on the city's website. It was another mixed year from the national, state, and local perspective. Longmont continued to feel the impacts of the recession in some regards, while other areas fared better than 2010. After seeing the lowest inflation rates since 2004, the Denver-Boulder-Greeley inflation for 2011 was up for the second year in a row. 2011 inflation was still, the inflation rate for 10 was up for a second year in a row. The 2011 inflation rate was still slightly below the rate seen in 2008 of 3.9%. Local unemployment was up slightly in 2011 at 7.5% compared to 7.3% in 2010. After increasing in 2010, the number of residential permits decreased again in 11. Decreased primary jobs in Longmont were mainly due to the closure of Butterball. We also saw decreased property taxes due to decreased assessed valuations. Positive trends in 2011 include the number of foreclosures filed in Longmont reached its lowest point since a high in 2009, and the number of foreclosures that ended in a sale were also up. Despite the closures of Butterball, there was an increase of 106 employers in Boulder County in 2011. Average annual wages in Boulder County was up 7.3%. As in prior years, jobs in the professional and technical category were the highest paying jobs, with the wholesale trade category being second. And the city's sales and use tax was also up in 2011. Total citywide revenues increased $13.55 million from 2010. This increase was due mainly to charges for services, taxes, and other revenues. In the charges for services category, the electric rate increase made up most of the increase, followed by the water and sewer funds, which were also up due to rate increases. Total expenditures for 2011 decreased by $6.4 million from 2010. All fund types, that's increased $6.4 million. All fund types were up. The enterprise funds were up due to increases in cost of services and capital projects, while the special revenue funds were up overall. Some funds increased while others decreased though. The general fund revenues for 2011 increased by $1.1 million. Total taxes made up $1.2 million of that, mainly due to sales and use tax and franchise fees. In the other revenue categories, some were up and some were down, resulting in our overall $1.1 million increase. As shown on a previous slide, the general fund expenditures increased by $2.6 million. This included increases in the general government category, the public safety category, culture and recreation categories were down. The financial assessment report also contains 5-year projections for the major operating funds of the city. For the general fund, the proposed 2013 budget includes a decrease of 0.2% for property tax collections. For 2014, we project further decreases of 2% due to the impact of foreclosures still going through the process. Sales and use tax revenues are projected to increase in 2013. So just a side note here, that 5.5% increase is greater than you have heard about previously because this number represents just the general fund portion. You will recall that we have a policy that states that the 2% tax that goes into the general fund and public improvement fund is allocated in such a way that more of the sales tax goes into the general fund and more of the use tax goes into the public improvement fund. Since sales tax is projected to increase more than use tax, that's resulting in our higher sales and use tax or sales tax rate for 2013. The decrease in 2014 is due to the change in the financial policy back to the 85-15 split between the general fund and the public improvement fund. Based upon collections through 2012, natural gas is projected to increase in 2013 as well as the out years. The combined impact from other franchise revenue is a 6.2% increase in 2013, mainly due to electric rate increases, followed by a 2.6% increase in the out years. Building permits and permit revenues are also projected to increase over the 5-year period, based on permit projections from the Planning and Development Services divisions. And the parks maintenance fee was originally set to sunset at the end of 2012, but will be extended for 1 more year. The general fund expenditure projections do not include any new personnel. We purposefully exclude any increases in FTE so that we can determine if we will have the ongoing revenues to support the current ongoing expenditures to maintain the same level of service to the residents of Longmont. For 2013, total salary and wages are projected to increase 3.7% from 2012. This is greater than the pay increase that has been included in the proposed budget because we are projecting to end 2012 below our budget for salary and wages. Benefit line items, with the exception of employee insurance, are expected to increase 2% in 2014, followed by 3% for the next 3 years. Health insurance cost is projected to increase 10.9% in 13 from projected expenses in 12. Due to the need to increase city contributions, we project increases for health insurance of 5% in the out years. Other operating and maintenance costs historically have increased between 0% and 3% depending on the expenditure type. One-time expenses are not included in the projections that we make, since the city policy is to use one-time revenues, or fund balance, to cover one-time expenses. The proposed 2013 budget includes the use of $1.8 million of fund balance for one-time expenses. The future projections for ongoing revenue and expenses results in deficits between $2 million in 14 to more than $4 million by 17. Contributing to these deficits are the anticipated readjustment back to the 85-15 split for the sales tax between the general fund and the public improvement fund in 2014, the sunset of the parks maintenance fee at the end of 2013, and the projected decrease in property tax collections in 2014. Again, these numbers do not include any new FTE or increases to service levels or one-time expenses. However, they do include estimated increases in operating and maintenance costs. Each year we put together the FAR, these numbers have grown, but through a variety of measures we continue to adopt a balanced budget. You have seen this list of one-time expenditures with one-year commitments several times now during our 2013 budget presentations. While we have made some good progress in moving these types of expenses to ongoing, the purpose of showing you this list again is to point out that in addition to the ongoing revenue and expenditure gap from the previous slide, these expenditures are yet another challenge in the general fund that we will have to face in 2014 and beyond. Projections for the water fund show that it will meet the minimum reserve requirement in each of the 5 years. Rate increases of 4% in 2013 have previously been approved by Council. It is anticipated that rate increases of 4% will be needed in 2014, 3% in 15 and 16, and another 4% in 17. These will be necessary to meet our ongoing projected expenses. Projections for the sewer fund show that it will also meet minimum reserve requirements in each of the 5 years due to rate increases. The city will be going out to the voters to seek approval for an additional bond issuance in November to fund regulatory improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. Rate increases will be necessary to fund the ongoing operations and these critical capital improvements. Projections for the electric fund show that it will not meet the new minimum reserve requirements until 2015. In 2008, Council adopted a reserve designed to address normal operating costs, multi-year capital plans, and unanticipated needs, which, based upon budgeted expenditures, will take until 2015 to reach. An average rate increase of 7.5% is included in the proposed budget for 2013 and has been previously approved by Council. Projections for the sanitation fund show that it will meet the minimum reserve requirements from 13 through 17. Approved rate increases was included in the proposed budget for 2012 and again in 14 and 16. Projections for the storm drainage fund show that it will meet the minimum reserve requirements in each of the 5 years as well. Staff is in the process of updating the master plan and rate study. These will be brought back to Council in 2013. The extension of the street fund tax, approved by voters in November of 2009, put this fund in a good position to meet the minimum reserve requirement through 2016. The tax is set to expire at the end of 2016 and will require voter approval to extend it. And finally, the Public Safety Fund was created in 2006, implemented in 2007 for the purpose of enhancing public safety services. Due to revenue constraints, we have not been able to hire the FTE that was outlined at the time the ballot initiative passed, but we have been able to add a total of 41.38 FTE to enhance needed public safety services. This fund is projected to meet the 8% minimum reserve requirement in each of the 5 years. And in conclusion, it is very clear that revenue growth is critical in order for the general fund to maintain or increase service levels. This includes the shifting of the general fund and public improvement fund sales and use tax back to the 85-15 split and the sunset of the parks maintenance fee at the end of 2013. The policy regarding the allocation of the sales and use tax has been successful in stabilizing revenue swings. It has allowed for more of the less volatile sales tax to go into the general fund and more of the more volatile use tax to go into the public improvement fund. We foresee that our budget processes will continue to be a challenge in the future. Structural alignment of ongoing revenues and expenses will definitely be the key. The financial assessment report contains all of the details of the numbers presented today, as well as much more additional information, and can be found in your council packet, as well as on the city's website. This concludes the presentation of the 2012 FAR. Thank you.